Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a week, one whole week since the end of the West Indies versus England Test series, since West Indies picked up some vital World Test Championship points to move up to 7th in the World Test Championship rankings. But you know what we haven't done at the Caribbean Cricket Podcast? We haven't given our player ratings, and we haven't spoken about what comes next for the West Indies Test side. You know how we do it. Walk with me.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans. Yes. I'm back in my dressing gown, in the recording room. I should have been in Jamaica right now. Boy, if I tell you that story, I need to loud up that story. Lufthansa done me dirty. They done me fully dirty. I'm recording this on Sunday, the 3rd of March. I should be in Jamaica, in my parents' home, in Mandeville right now. Lufthansa cancelled my flight, then sent me on a runaround, and then tried to put me on a new flight, which involved staying in a New York JFK for 7 hours in the airport. I told them, man, to suck out. I told them, suck out. You need to book me on a proper flight or give me a refund or whatnot. So I'll give you some more details about that story as and when. It's still in the background. It's still ongoing. But I'm ready for war. Me one. I'm going to war Lufthansa and I'm going to win this battle. Because you see, with these big companies and these big corporations, they bank on the little man not fighting back. They bank on the little man not standing up for themselves. They bank on the little man feeling like they have to take what's given to them because they don't know what else to do. But this is the wrong guy. This is the wrong guy to come for. So you didn't... The thing is, you didn't join this video. You didn't join this video to hear about my battles with Lufthansa. You joined it for the title, which is the West Indies versus England Test Series review. I'm so flustered by what's happened with my flight that I didn't even plug in my mic. So bear with me, people. Let me mic myself up properly, you know? 1 second. We in now properly. You should be hearing me better, mic'd up. Nothing called professional on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. But anyways, as I was saying, Lufthansa Airlines, you man can suck out. And I'm going to be keeping you, the Caribbean Cricket Podcast audience, updated with how that battle goes, because I will touch yard. I will get my refund and I will get that compensation. But let's get into the title of this video. In my dressing gown, you know, can't turn the heating on in the UK. I don't know how many of you are UK listeners, how many of you are outside of the UK, but heating prices in the UK have gone up. No one can afford to turn the heating on, so it's a dressing gown flex from now on. You're lucky I'm not even recording this in my blanket right now. I've got the hoodie on, I've got the dressing gown on, I've got layers under the hoodie. We can't turn that heating on because, man, we can't afford the prices they're asking us to pay. But let me get to it. If you're new to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, you can follow us on Twitter and Instagram at Carib Cricket. We're also on Facebook. Just search Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Also, go to our website, caribbeancricketpodcast.com. That's where you'll find out everything that we're doing, all our latest episodes, so on and so forth. We're also on every single podcast platform, Google, Listen Notes, Spotify, Apple, all the ones that you listen to on your podcast. Search Caribbean Cricket Podcast. You'll find all of our episodes there. Our latest one, other than with George DeBell reviewing the Test series, obviously has Michael Atherton on. We did a special with Michael Atherton, so go and listen to that one as well. If you'd like to keep the Caribbean Cricket Podcast going, thanks to all the recent patron supporters. Ultimately, remember, we have no sponsorship. As you watch this on the screen, you'll see that there's no sponsors. There's no one. We don't say this is a Caribbean Cricket podcast brought to you by. We have no sponsors. All of the success we have with this podcast is in spite of sponsorship. We don't have any. So really and truly, the only support we get is from you, the listeners. So if you can spare anything from as little as £2, $2 to whatever your currency is, if you head to www.patreon.com/Carib Cricket, you can become a supporter of the Caribbean cricket movement and what we're trying to do for the Caribbean cricket fans around the globe, wherever you hail from. But let's get into it then. Let's get into it. 1 week out from the Test series, and a couple of people, in fact, quite a lot of people, messaged me on Twitter saying, and Santolki, remember, you never know who's responding on Twitter. And they messaged us and said, "Where's your player ratings? You didn't do any CCP player ratings for this series." And that's true. Because we were kind of collaborating with the cricketer and particularly George DeBell for this series, a lot of our reviews of each test match and previews were all done with George DeBell. So we didn't follow the usual format, which is for us to give our particular player ratings, who's done well, who hasn't done well, so on and so forth. And also, I guess, coming out of the series, what happens next. For those of you who don't know the West Indies schedule, obviously it's IPL at the moment. When IPL comes to an end, West Indies will be heading to the Netherlands for 3 ODIs. I will be there, so look out for some live content in the Netherlands. I've already booked my ticket, got my hotel, etc. I will be there doing live Carib cricket content across all of those ODIs. So the West Indies will be there for the ODI series. Then they fly to Pakistan for another ODI series. And then after that, at the start of July, Bangladesh will be in the Caribbean for 2 test matches. I think they're initially scheduled for Antigua and possibly St. Lucia, but don't take my word for that. That's what I feel it might be. So we're 2 months away. Maybe in fact, actually longer than that. 3 months away from the next test series. And of course, also I should add the West Indies domestic 4-day championship returns May 18th. So there will be 3 rounds of the domestic championship before red ball cricket returns versus Bangladesh. So yeah, let's go through it. Let's look at each individual player. There was only 12 players that played in the 3 test match series versus England. So let's break down each individual player and then consider what we should be looking out for in the 4-day championship in terms of the next squad that may or may not be selected, that will be selected for the Bangladesh series. So let's get into it. Let's chop it up. Of course, you can put your comments below when you watch this video. Comment below. Also, remember to press the like button, smash the subscribe button, all of that jazz. You know how YouTubers do. But comment below, because you're not necessarily going to agree with the ratings I give, and you're not going to necessarily agree with the suggestions I give in terms of moving forward with our test squad. So the first player, Captain Craig Brathwaite. If you're expecting to see, in fact, I've spelled Brathwaite wrong. Let me take it off the screen. If you're expecting to see each player's name come up, no, that won't be happening. So let's start with Craig Brathwaite. So Craig averaged 85 across the 3 test match series. He's 250s, 55 in the first test, a century, 160 in the second test, and a 56 not out. And then a 20 not out in our like easy chase of whatever it was, 27 runs or 28 runs in that final test. What can you say about Craig? Series average of 85, captained us to a series victory versus England. I think the only time in the course of the series where he came under real scrutiny, we're focusing on his captaincy here, was, I think it was during that Leach and Mahmood knock. Was that the second test? Or was that the third test? No, that was the third test. That was the only time I remember him coming under real scrutiny where people were saying, because remember, we had England at something like 67 for 7 or something stupid in the first innings, and England went on to make 204, and people are coming for him saying he's lost us the match. We should have gone for the kill. Now Leach and Mahmood have put on 90-odd runs, and England have made 204. I kept saying when all of that was happening, let the test match breathe. We ended up winning that test match by 10 wickets anyway, right? So that was the only scrutiny I remember Craig really coming under. I think there was acknowledgement from most sane fans that the first 2 test matches were on dead tracks. So you can't really say that Craig was poor in his captaincy because they weren't results pitches. So yes, he could have tried this. Yes, he could have tried that. Likelihood is he still wouldn't have got a result, no matter what level of innovation he tried. So Craig Brathwaite, 85 average, 1-0 series win. I thought he captained well. 10 out of 10. 10 out of 10 for Craig Brathwaite. I know people say, but 10's what you give when someone's flawless. But by West Indian standards, Craig Brathwaite was flawless in every aspect. Relatively flawless in every aspect of the game. So we start strong. Craig Brathwaite, 10 out of 10. His opening partner, John Campbell. Ah, boy. So John Campbell averaged 22. These were his scores across the series. First test, 35 and 22. Second test, 4 and 10. Third test, 35 and 6 not out. I pause because I don't really know what to say. John got called back to the side because he was the only opener other than Craig that put up significant runs in the 2 rounds of the 4-day championship to warrant being recalled. Some of you will say that Jeremy Solizano should have got a pick. I wasn't one of them. If you'll know that if you watch our previous videos, I was like, no, Solizano can't get a pick. His first class average isn't good enough. His body of work isn't good enough. It was the previous selectors that selected Solizano to go to Sri Lanka. Desmond Haynes and Ronnie Sarwan didn't owe Solizano anything. Campbell got in off the back of his century for Jamaica against Barbados. People felt Campbell shouldn't have got in because he'd already failed at the test match level. The century versus Barbados suggested that maybe he had worked on the flaws in his game. Do I think John Campbell will be dropped by the time Bangladesh turn up? No, I don't actually. I think he's going to get another go. And hear me out as to why. Those couple of 30s he got, so actually both 35. So 35 in the first test, 35 in the last test. I have to be careful with this. I actually think that John Campbell has worked on his game. I don't think he's as susceptible outside his off stump. Sorry. I don't think he's as susceptible as much as he was the first time round with regards to his off stump. The problem is he still found ways to get himself out in very ungainly manners. Twice in the series, caught down the leg side. I think both those dismissals were when he was on 35 and set. The problem is with John, I would argue, 21, that John looks like he's got all the attributes, but there's something goes wrong for him between about 20 runs and 40 runs when he's set and he can't convert. And by convert, I just mean get over 50. I'm not even talking about centuries yet. I just mean get over 50. And he just can't convert. Now, for most people, I assume they would say that's enough to drop him. I could do a separate video. In fact, I wrote an article for it for the Cricketer about the dearth of openers in the Caribbean region. So for all the people who will say, well, drop John Campbell, you know what I'm going to say. For who? Because no matter who you call, no matter whose name you call to me, it's not a solution. It's not an immediate solution to fix the problem. So for me, Campbell's probably going to stay and get one last chance in the series versus Bangladesh to come good. Should he? That's open for debate. Do I think he will? Yes, because I think that Haynes and Sarwan may look at his body of work over the England series and say, you look like you've got the game. He looks to the naked eye like he's got the game. He just has brain fades. Anyways, series rating, 3. 3 out of 10. Some of you will say I should give him 0 or 1, but I'm going to give him 3 out of 10, and that's to indicate the fact that he is on very, very thin ice to keep his place. If he does get dropped for Bangladesh, I'm not bothered. That's his own problem. I just think that Ronnie and Desi might just give him one more chance. Obviously, comment below with your views on that. Number 3, Shamar Brooks. Series average 16. Innings scores 18, 5, 39 for 13 did not bat. I was one of the people advocating in our I think the video we did, it was me, Santoki, and Nikhil prior to the series about who gets into your test squad or test team. And Nikhil and I both advocated for Shamar Brooks to now be given a run. Boy. Again, similar to John Campbell. If Shamar Brooks now gets dropped and loses his place, that's his problem. You can't average 16 at number 3 and look as loose as Shamar did. Even the innings, even when he got 39, there was no innings Shamar played where I thought he looked in control of his game. A lot of the dismissals in this series were avoidable shots, very loose outside of his off stump. And you can't have that for a number 3. You just can't have it. If we're going to cuss John, so anyone who heard me say 3 out of 10 for John and you're cussing going, nah, John was useless. Well, what are we giving Shamar then? Because he averaged 16. He averaged 16, you know, only what... Let me give the scores again. 18-5, 39-4, 13 did not bat. His place is tenuous. Maybe it's because of him playing the white ball series, going to Pakistan, playing versus Ireland. What else did he play in? What other ODIs did he play? I think it was just Pakistan and Ireland, right? And maybe he went to India as well. What am I talking about? Maybe all that white ball game has made him too loose at the moment for the red ball game. But like I say, looking ahead to Bangladesh, I think Shamar is on even thinner ice than John Campbell, and it definitely wouldn't surprise me if he may well still be in the squad versus Bangladesh, but I don't expect him to play versus Bangladesh. I think he may well have played himself out of the team with this test series. Logic should say you give him a run, and that you shouldn't just write him off after this one series versus England. But that's how poor he did that he may have played himself into a drop. Anyways, Shamar Brooks, 1 out of 10 for the series. 1. And I'm only giving him 1 for that 39. Number 4, Nkrumah Bonner, series average 44, started strong, ended badly. First test, he got another test century, 123. Then a 38 not out. That's when him and Holder batted us to safety. And then the rest of his innings, 9-3-4, did not bat. Listen, Nkrumah Bonner started strong. And he showed in that first test particularly, the first test, why he's so valuable to our side. His ability to soak up balls. Yes, there will be people, because that's just the way we are in the Caribbean, about cussing about anything. There will be people who will say he bats too slow. But when you have a batting lineup as brittle as the West Indies, you're going to need a Craig Brathwaite and you're going to need an Nkrumah Bonner. And you have to ask the other batsmen like your Blackwoods, your Holders, etc., to bat around people like Nkrumah Bonner. He did his job in the first test. He ensured we didn't lose the first test. What the second and the third test exposed, though, which we're going to have to be mindful of about Nkrumah, because this happened versus South Africa as well, is there are some question marks about Bonner versus strong pace. There's some question marks about it. I'm not sure his game's as strong when it comes to quality pace bowling. So there's some question marks about that. But over the overall piece of the test series, it's a strong return from Nkrumah. You can't turn your nose up at somebody who averages 44 across a test series. So I'm giving him a 7 out of 10. His place is in no jeopardy whatsoever. Number 5, or batsman number 5, Jermaine Blackwood. Probably the batsman who was under the most pressure. Maybe John Campbell, but probably the batsman who was under the most pressure going into the series. And after the first test where he scored 11 and 2, there was a lot of noises from various parts of the Caribbean going, drop him. Mayers has to come in, drop Blackwood. And I made it very clear in our first test review show with George Dabell that Blackwood's going nowhere. there's still a bit of credit in the bank for Jermaine Blackwood that would allow him to play the second test. But I said that if he failed in the second test, then I could foresee a situation where he gets dropped by the third test, vice captaincy or not. And then Blackwood did what Blackwood does. When he's under proper pressure, he tends to produce an innings. In the second test, he produced 102 and 27. And that 102 has made him undroppable. His series average for the series versus England, obviously, was 32. Yes, people will want higher from him, but a 32 series average for a West Indian batsman is like a 40 series average for other people, for other Test nations. So that 32, it's like time extension with Jermaine Blackwood. Every time he looks like he's in a bit of risk, he produces a knock that makes sure he's got his place for the next series, no matter what. So big up Jermaine, because you have to big him up. That 102, along with Craig Brathwaite's 160, did a lot to ensure we didn't lose a second test. So we have to salute it. We still have to say to Jermaine that we want to see more consistency from him, but we don't see many West Indian batsmen score centuries, so we have to salute and applaud when any West Indian batsman gets a Test match century. So I've got nothing to suggest that Dads loses his place or is in any threat going into the Bangladesh series. He'll still stay vice captain and he'll still be present in that series and he'll be in the team. Special mention as well. People will forget it was actually Blackwood who got the vital wicket that ended that Leach and Mahmood partnership in the last test. Now, I'm not saying that, and that was the turning point of the game. But if you remember, that wicket he took meant that all the players went off the field, and that was the end to what I think day one. And it meant that the West Indian batsmen were able to go in for a proper night's rest, knowing, right, start of day two now, we're coming into bat. There was no extension of Leach and Mahmood's batting into the following day. And I think that, well, given how we batted initially, you would say it didn't help us. But actually, I think that wicket from Blackwood was actually kind of crucial to just stop the momentum overnight for England. So Blackwood's rating, 6 out of 10. Possibly should be higher. Maybe I should inch that up to a 6.5, given he got a century, given that his average was 32. But I think I'm with most people in saying that I want to see more consistency from Jermaine in general. So a 6 out of 10. It's a solid return. Solid. Jason Holder. So Jason Holder finally moved up to bat at number 6. It's something that a lot of West Indian fans have been calling for. He's previously not done it because he's been seen as a frontline bowler, somebody who's going to bowl over 25 overs in most innings that West Indies bowl in. He's used like a frontline bowler. So in the past, it's been seen that Holder can't bat at 6 because of his workload with the ball. We finally saw, and I should say that Phil Simmons said in his press conference prior to the start of the series, or maybe it was after the first test, I can't remember, where he said the plan going forward is to put Jason at 6. He wants his all-rounder at number 6 because it enables West Indies to have a better chance of taking 20 wickets, because obviously Alzari then came into the side. I back that. Going forward, I think at the point that Jason's career is now in, we shouldn't be relying on Jason to be taking the bulk of our wickets at the Test level. I think we have to realign and reshift the role in which we use Jason Holder with the ball. Yes, he will still be crucial. Yes, there will still be times when Jason will take a fifer and make crucial breakthroughs, but we should not be putting Jason's workload in the Test arena on, you're going to be first change. With Roach, Alzari, Jaden and Shannon, if and when he comes back, we should be able to, I'm not even mentioned Carl Mayers yet, we should be able to, or for Sammy Permaul, we should be able to utilize Jason as and when, as opposed to always using him as the go-to bowler when things aren't going right. So I'm hoping this is the beginning of the transition for Jason Holder going forward, and that we start to utilize him for what is clearly evident in his batting.
skills. There's lots of people who say, no, his batting's not good enough to be a test match number 6. Yes, it is. Yes, it is. His technique suggests he is good enough to bat in our top. Remember how brittle we are as a team when it comes to batting. Jason's batting and his technique is good enough to be in our top 6. That said, this series did not showcase that regularly. So Jason scores first test 45, 37 not out. Remember, he batted with Bonner to not save the first test, but ensure there were no dramas. Over the remainder of the series, 12 duck did not bat. So that's why, because of recency bias, a lot of people will be like, 12 duck, he can't bat at number 6. He's shown that he's got to be number 7 and De Silva should go ahead of him. Okay, cool. But normal people who have looked at Jason's body of work over the years will say, yeah, let's pull the trigger now. Let's put Jason at 6. Let's invest in him at 6 and give him responsibility with the bat. He averaged 24 with the bat, and actually with the ball was actually very, well, not poor, but he wasn't effective with the ball. 4 wickets at 59. That's poor. So actually, when you take the two numbers together, averaging 24 whilst batting at number 6 and 4 wickets at 59, that's a poor series for Jason Holder, actually. Where he was stupendous in the field, on two levels. He took several slip catches. I think on that final day, who was it? Was it Wokes? Where he took that one-handed screamer at leg, like some kind of leg slip position, or leg gully or whatever it was. And he took that screamer. So Jason, and he was very, very vocal in the field. I think anyone who watched the majority of the test matches, whenever like the mood was flattening or our energy was down, you could always hear Jason in the field. And I think that is important. You can tell that he's the ex-leader of the side and that he has leadership responsibility within the side. And that stuff can't be overlooked. And he still looks as happy to play Test cricket as he ever was. That said, he would be the first to say he wasn't happy with his overall returns. So Jason Holder for the actual series, 4 out of 10. 4 out of 10. Josh De Silva, number 7, got to bat a bit higher this series because of Jason going to 6. Josh went up to 7. Series average, 98. Scores, 32, did not bat. 33, 30 not out, 100 not out. If there was anyone critical of Josh De Silva for whatever reason prior to this test series, he has done everything he possibly could do to shut everyone up. That's it. I don't need to say any more. Josh De Silva has done all he could possibly do in this series to shut everyone up. There are lots of people who are trying to pretend now that they weren't calling for Dowrich to come in and for Josh to be dropped. I see you lot, because I kept the receipts. True said I didn't want to loud anybody up. I didn't put anything on the social media handles to loud people up. But I distinctly remember several voices saying it's time to bring back Dowrich. He's a better player than Josh. Josh has to come out. Well, Josh ain't going nowhere. If Dowrich is going to get back in this side, Josh is going to have to go up the order, and one of them is going to have to play as a pure batsman because Josh has shown everyone why he is so crucial to this side. What I don't agree with is the people still saying things like Josh should open alongside Craig. No. I've said it before and I'll say it again. That to me is too early of a move to make in his career, and I think he would finish him if you tried to do that to him now. Does he have the potential skill set to maybe do it one day? Yes, possibly. Is that time now? No. And the people saying that are only saying that so they can find a way to fit Dowrich into the side, to be honest. Let's just focus on what we can focus on, which is that Josh has shown with the bat that he is important to this side. You can't argue with with a series average of 98. That's better than anybody else. That's even better than Craig. Where you can criticize Josh is that he didn't have a good time behind the stumps. He even was critical of himself about his performance behind the stumps. I think it was in the 3rd test maybe where he said, I'm the worst keeper in the world, because there was a lot of buys, but you had to look at Ben Foulkes. Ben Foulkes struggled behind the stumps as well. I don't think this was an easy test series to wicket keep to, but that said, Josh probably would be the first to say that his standards behind the stumps weren't that high. Yes, he took that one screamer of a catch down the leg side. Can't remember who it was again, but he took that one-handed screamer. but there were a lot of buys in some of the test matches, and that's the only reason I'm not giving him 10 out of 10. Because he is still the wicket keeper, and you have to judge somebody on their wicket keeping skills as well. So Josh, 9 or 9.5. Our best batsman statistically in the series. Everybody was happy for him to get his maiden test century. That was ultimately, maybe I should give him 10, because that maiden test century ultimately shifted the last test match. That without that century, West Indies possibly don't win the last test, the test in Grenada. And the reason I say that is because it's not just the century that Josh got. The point of the century was it shifted the momentum. England lost that test the minute Josh got the century and kept on batting and batting, ably supported by Alzari and then by Kimar and Jaden. But the minute he got that century, the body language, the momentum had completely shifted. And you saw it when West Indies came out and just blew England away. The momentum shift was so significant from that century. So I should, in truth, give Josh a 10 just for that. But I'll mark him down half. So I'll give him 9.5 because of the wicket keeping. Alzari Joseph. So has Alzari Joseph finally arrived? Is this his time now? With the bat, he averaged 16. With the ball, 10 wickets at 37. Those numbers don't strike anybody listening. If you just listen to the raw numbers, so I'll say again, average 16 with the bat and 10 wickets at 37. Just based on the raw numbers, no, this isn't the second coming of Alzari Joseph. However, I feel like in a few innings across the series, I saw enough from Alzari to say we must now persist with him and give him more responsibility with the ball. There were a few times in this test series where Alzari got the ball before Jason, for example, and that's what I want to see. Not because Jason isn't effective, but because Alzari is not going to improve as a bowler until we start giving him extra responsibility and not just seeing him as, well, you're the fifth bowler in the side, so now it's your turn. There are a few occasions where after the new ball pair, Seals and Roach had their goal, Alzari came next, not Jason. And that's what I want to see more of. There needs to be a clear expectation put on Alzari Joseph's shoulders that you are in this side to take wickets. With the new ball, with the old ball, be an enforcer in the middle, and so on and so forth. Define his role clearly. Do I want to see him do better than 10 wickets at 37? Yes. But did I see enough? So in the first test, Alzari took 2 for 70 and 3 for 78. I was fine with that. Second test, the winning test, 2 for 33. Third test, sorry, 2 for 33 and 1 for 38. Fine with that. What I wasn't happy with is that I think Alzari tries to do too much sometimes. Sometimes in an Alzari Joseph over, I want to see a more consistent line and length. I want to see him focus on not going for wicket-taking balls all the time, but going for maiden overs. I think he just needs to be a bit tighter from time to time. And he's still got, in my mind, what I call too many 4 balls in an over for my liking. But I saw enough sprinklings of improvement in this series to say, yeah, we go all in on Alzari now. We don't drop him. We don't rotate him out the side now. We say, Alzari, we're believing in you. You're going to get picked. But here's the sound of caution for Alzari. If you're going to play number 8 in this side, if Jason's moving up to 6 and Josh is going to 7 and Alzari's coming at 8, he will have to bat more responsibly, more on a more frequent basis. So with the bat, he got 2, did not bat 19, did not bat 28. It's not bad. It's not bad. If I gave you those numbers for a number 9, you'd be like, yeah, fair. But you see, when you bat number 8, we're expecting you to bat with a bit more responsibility. And there were a few wickets that Alzari gave away. And you, in the West Indies side, when you bat number 8, you can't be affording to just give your wicket away. I know he's a naturally attacking batsman. I know he thinks he can take everyone on. But no, it's not every time go for the wild man shot. Bat responsibly at all times because you're a test match number 8 with abilities stronger than that of a quote-unquote tail ender. So anyway, Alzari Joseph, I'm going to give him a 6 out of 10 for this series. Possibly too high. Some might say 5.5, but 6 out of 10 for this series. This video is going much longer than I thought it would, you know. Kimar, it's because I was cussing off Lufthansa at the start. Kimar Roach, 14, average 14 with the bat, 11 wickets at 26. What do you say about Kimar Roach? He does what Kimar Roach does in home conditions. 2 for 86, 2 for 53, 2 for 68, 1 for 31, 2 for 41, 2 for 10. Consistency. We love that. We love that consistency. Kimar does what he does, Kimar did what he does in home conditions, consistently probing away at the batsman and striking at important times. 11 wickets at 26. We can't knock that. And with the bat, there were a few innings. Was it the first test? He got 15 in that first test. Who was he batting with? It might even have been Craig, you know, and he hung around for, you know what? Let me go look it up. He hung around for a long time. Let me look this up, people. I swear it's that first. Yeah. He got 15 runs and hung around for 87 balls in the first test. Or am I thinking of the second one as well? And then in the second test, no, not the second. In the third test, when Josh was trying to get his century, Kimar got 25 off 82 balls. Kimar Roach's, the point I'm trying to make is Kimar has really worked on his batting. And we saw it versus Pakistan as well, remember, when we won that test against Pakistan. Kimar has the ability to hang about and score runs. So we got to rate that. It might only say an average of 14 across the series, but the context of that 15 and the context of that 25 are actually important. He's a gritty, lower order, late order batsman. So we have to rate that as well. So Kimar Roach, 8 out of 10. Jayden Seales, average of 9 with the bat, 11 wickets at 26, just like Kimar as well. Listen, the sky's the limit for Jayden Seales. What can we really say about Jayden Seales? We should be so happy that we've got him. 20 years old, bowling with the new ball, the shape he gets on the ball. He shouldn't even be that good at 20. The zip he gets. The ability to take the ball away from the batsman or duck it in. He shouldn't be this good at 20 years old. The future's bright, you know, if we can hold on to him in Test cricket. Okay? It's all about management of Jayden Seales. Remember, the boy's only 20. We don't want to be overworking him. Yes, he'll want to go and get 2020 deals and so on and so forth. We've got some ODI tours coming up. It'll be interesting to see if we put him in the tour to Netherlands and the tour to Pakistan. Because when Bangladesh come, you assume you want Jayden Seales leading your pace attack with Kimar Roach and possibly a return in Shannon Gabriel. So we just got to be mindful of the workload with Jayden Seales. Maybe we even tell Trinidad and Tobago, don't play him in all of your domestic championship games. Maybe play him in 2 out of 3 just to protect him. I'm just saying. Not everyone will agree with that, but as good as he is, we could end up in a situation where he breaks down earlier than he should do because of the workload put on him. But anyways, 11 wickets at 26, 4 for 79, none for 57, 1 for 55, 2 for 34, 3 for 40, 1 for 26, and then big up the 13 runs he got to allow Josh De Silva to be shepherded to his maiden Test century. That was a crucial knock in and of itself as well in terms of shifting the momentum away from England in the final test. 8 out of 10 for Jayden Seales. For Sammy Permaul, with the bat, he averaged 31, large off the back of a 26 not out in the first test. With the ball, 5 wickets at 51. No wickets in the first test at all. 5 wickets in the second test for about 150 runs. So he took his 5 wickets at 30 in the second test, which actually isn't that bad. Because of the 5 wickets at 51, everyone's like, Vasami Permaul was awful. Yeah, he was in the first test. He bowled too wide of the crease. There was no real spin on the ball. He was just bowling stock balls, and England were just playing him with ease. Second test, 5 wickets at 30. Not too bad. And it was good enough for me to think he was going to play in the final test. Obviously, they dropped him for Mayers, and that proved to be a masterstroke. But this is the problem now. Let me eat this sweet. This is the problem now for Vasami. because we're so fickle in the Caribbean, people say drop Vasami from the squad. So when Bangladesh turn up now, people are going to say, nah, Vasami Permaul shouldn't be there. He was ineffective versus England. But I'm stressing, look at the context of his wickets. Yes, he was rubbish in the first test. Didn't look like he could win us a match. But second test, 5 wickets at 30. Still should have been better. I'm not saying that was match winning or that's brilliant, but it's acceptable. Remember, these decks weren't very good decks to bat on. Although the problem I've got is you could arguably say that is it even arguably, Lawrence and Leach out-bowled him. So that's more the issue than Vasami's return in and of itself. Should questions be asked of him before Bangladesh? Yes. But we've got to remember that in Sri Lanka, he took 8 wickets in that second test. You can't drop a man already. Surely you can't. And even if you did, who are you dropping him for? Ruston Chase? I don't know. So Vasami had a subpar time of it. I mean, the rating that I've given him for the series, 3 out of 10. That's what I'm giving him. I think it was subpar. I think he deserves to be critiqued quite strongly for his performances, but I don't believe that he's done enough to warrant no longer being in the West Indies Test match squad. He should be given the chance again in against Bangladesh, unless when the domestic 4-day returns, he's shocking, and somebody like a Warwican, a Cornwall, a Multi, and a Akil Hussain, whoever it might be, unless they significantly outbowl him, Permaul should be given the go again versus Bangladesh. But like Campbell and possibly like Shamar Brooks, should he fail versus Bangladesh or not be effective, he's only got himself to blame if he then holds a drop. So Vasami Permaul, 3 out of 10. And then lastly, so I mean, it's sweet, you know. Lastly, Carl Mayers came in for the final test. 28 in the first innings with the bat. Where did he bat? Did he bat at number 8 that day? Let me look. Where did he bat? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, batted at number 7. So Carl Mayers, 28 off 39 balls in the first innings of the final test match. And then with the ball, 2 for 13 and 5 for 18. 7 wickets at 4 runs. 10 out of 10. You got to give him 10 out of 10. You come in for a final test match, having not played in 1 or 2, test match 1 or test match 2. You take 7 wickets at 4 runs to basically, he wins. Basically, Carl Mayers won. Yes, Josh De Silva's century, and Josh has not changed the momentum. But that 5 for 18 from Carl Mayers in the second innings and that spell he bowled in England's second innings effectively won us the match. That's what crushed England's soul in the second innings. So you've got to give Carl Mayers 10 out of 10. A fifer, a test match fifer. And it's nothing new. We saw what he did. Was it versus Sri Lanka? Was it versus Sri Lanka last year with the ball? So we know how effective Carl Mayers can be with the ball. Dibbly dobbler, kind of medium pacer, but he does just enough with the ball to challenge the batsman's inside and outside edge. You have to respect it fully. Now, the question mark for Carl Mayers is, where does he get into the side going forward? Because West Indies aren't always going to play a test match 11 with no first choice spinner. I wouldn't recommend it. But based on this performance from Carl Mayers, no matter what happens versus Bangladesh in July, when we play that first test match, Mayers has to play. So the question is, who's going to get dropped now for Carl Mayers to play? Because if the pitch takes any level of spin, a spinner has to be there. So that's the player match ratings. Obviously, comment below based on your views about the player match ratings. You may not agree with all the ratings that I gave. You may think some were too high, some were too low, so on and so forth. But before I wrap up this video, it's been quite a long one, actually. Before I wrap up this video, let me just quickly talk on things to look out for when the domestic 4-day championship returns in 1 month's time. Remember, it comes back on the 18th of May. The positions most under scrutiny in the West Indies Test match squad are as follows. Opener. Obviously, John Campbell is under pressure. The players you need to look out for in the 4-day championship are Kieran Powell. I know some of you are sighing when I say his name, but that's reality. Remember, the cupboard is bare. Go read my article for the Cricketer on the West Indies openers issue. The cupboard is bare. Kieran Powell, Tej Narayan Chanderpaul, Monson Hodge, Chandrapaul Hemraj. They are the only, and I guess Solizano. I guess I've got to say Solizano as well. They are the only openers in the region who could possibly replace John Campbell as things currently stand. Okay. There is no one else. There is no other name that anyone could call to me. Maybe a Shane Mosley, but I'm not. There is no one else who I think can replace John Campbell currently. The person I've always banked on Tej Narayan Chanderpaul to come good, but he would now need to put up century after century after century, or 2 centuries and a couple of 50s or whatnot. So the person, believe it or not, that I've got my eye on is Chandrapaul Hemraj. I don't know if Chandrapaul Hemraj really wants to play red ball cricket. I mean, he plays the domestic stuff for Guyana, but arguably Hemraj could put some pressure on John Campbell if he could. And also, Hemraj is a bit like Campbell in that his game is to be more aggressive at the top of the order. So if Hemraj can put together some consistent scores in the 4-day champ, arguably he might be the person he might be the next taxi off the rank, or it might be Solizano. Who knows? But those are the 5 people to watch to maybe replace Campbell if Campbell doesn't keep his place versus Bangladesh. And then, of course, we've got the issue that I just alluded to when I gave Carl Mayer's ratings. Carl Mayers has to play the next test match because his bowling performance and arguably the 28, when everybody else was struggling, warrants him keeping his spot. So here's what I think will happen. I think Brooks may well hold a drop. Then I think they may move Jermaine Blackwood to number 3 and slot Carl Mayers in at number 5. That's what I think they may end up doing. Blackwood bats at number 3 for Jamaica. So I don't see this as like a major call to make. Remember, and Blackwood was forced to open versus Sri Lanka when Solizano got the concussion. So I can foresee a situation where Blackwood, did I say Campbell? Sorry, Blackwood. I can foresee a situation where Blackwood is forced to go to number 3 in order to let Carl Mayers come in at number 5. But if that doesn't happen, the other middle order batsman to look at in the region when the 4-day returns, Athanaze, Devon Thomas, Yannick Correa, Raymond Reefer, Shane Dowrich, and possibly, if he plays it, Darren Bravo. I think those are the batsmen you have to look at in terms of keeping an eye out for the runs they score for their domestic franchise, as they may well end up replacing Shamar Brooks. If Brooks goes back to his Barbados franchise and makes no runs, if any of those 6, I'll say them again, Athanaze, Thomas, Correa, Reefer, Dowrich, and Bravo, if any of them make big consistent runs, I think they'll end up replacing Brooks versus Bangladesh. So that's the players you need to consider. And then finally, because everybody else for me keeps their spot, Shannon Gabriel, if he's fit, he obviously comes back into the test squad, not necessarily team, but test squad, and he would replace Anderson Phillip. And then finally, the spinner. If Vasami Permaul is jettisoned, which I don't think they should do yet, but if Vasami Permaul is jettisoned, the spinners you need to watch out for in the region who will possibly replace Permaul in the side. Brian Charles, out of Trinidad. Remember, he played in the President's 11 game versus England. Jamel Warrican, who possibly will feel hard done by and feel like he should have played instead of Permaul anyway. And then this is the left field shout. Shouldn't be left field, but is left field. Akil Hussain. Because Akil Hussain hasn't been picked up in the IPL, and I hope, well, not that I hope, but if he doesn't get like a net bowler deal in the IPL, watch out for Akil Hussain's bowling returns for Trinidad and Tobago in the 4-day champ. Everyone thinks that Akil Hussain is just a white ball bowler. He's already proved himself in red ball cricket. So should Akil Hussain return and play for Trinidad in the remaining 3 rounds of the 4-day champ, I could see a situation where West Indies bring him into the test match lineup as well to replace Permaul. It's no coincidence to me that they called Akil up to come to Grenada and train with the squad They said that was already planned from well in advance. Okay, cool. But it's no coincidence to me that they called Akil Hussain to Grenada to come and do some work with the test match squad. So do not be surprised that if Akil puts down, gets lots of wickets and bowls tight and economically for Trinidad, don't be surprised if you see Akil Hussain feature versus Bangladesh in the next test match squad and setup. Listen, people, that's been a lengthy video. I didn't mean that one to go so long. I literally thought it was going to be like a 30-minute thing only. And I'm sorry it's come a week after the series is done. I'm not even supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be in yard right now, chilling with my family, eating a 1-2 mango, maybe going out and chopping down some sugar cane, eating a 1-2, frying some plantain, and then, boy, instead, here I am in my dressing gown, no heating on. It's cold outside. But you know what? We move. We really, really move. Thank you for listening. I've been Machel St. Patrick here at one half of the Caribbean Cricket Podcast. Thank you and good night.
We rule the cricket world. Now the rules seem coming.
Welcome to the Caribbean Cricket Podcast, your one-stop shop for all things West Indies cricket. By the fans, for the fans.